Working to raise money still for Tokyo. You know, if you have the means, the ability, as of right now, I'm going to come up way short of my goal. I knew that was a possibility. I knew I might be on the hook for a large sum of money, so I'm willing to pay it if it comes down to that.
Good morning. We are heading to the paved trail. I was supposed to meet up with Trav this morning, but unfortunately he has to run to the vet. His dog, sounds like his dog is pretty sick, so fingers crossed that everything's good there. It's a bummer because I am heading out tomorrow morning. I don't think I'm gonna run tomorrow morning, just because I think we're gonna head out pretty early. Atlanta airport is massive, and we just don't want to risk, obviously, getting stuck in security and all that with our kids, because it's one of those airports where you have to take like a shuttle to get to your gate, and it's just a lot with the kids, I'm not gonna lie, right? I mean, anyone with kids, you guys already know that, so it is what it is. However, I am meeting up with Caleb. So Caleb, his name, I think the Unlazy Runner, I believe is his tag, but he reached out to me. He's been following for a little while, I don't know for how long, but he's friends with Trav too. So again, meeting up with strangers from the internet, it is what we do as runners apparently nowadays. But we're gonna go meet up, and I'm only probably gonna do a couple of miles, or not a couple of miles, like 6-7 miles is probably what I'm thinking. Wednesday morning, and it's back like we never left. We're just gonna go out for, I want to get about 8 miles easy this morning, and kind of go from there. I do not normally go into work on Wednesdays, but today is our big company kickoff for the fiscal year. So our fiscal year started July 1st. So we've got a bunch of people coming into town, kind of gonna do the whole company-wide meeting thing, which I'm sure will be great, but it also does mean sitting in a chair for like 7 hours. So at the very least, that part I'm not super excited about. Health-wise, you know, I have my doctor's appointment tomorrow, now that I'm back in Utah, and the health seems to have come around. And I don't know, we'll see. Like, I'll get out there, and maybe it was just that I was away for a week, and so I was, you know, just not as stressed and was able to actually get some rest, but I didn't sleep a whole lot. I still ran. So my last doctor that I talked to thought that this might be Epstein-Barr virus. And if it's Epstein-Barr, then after about 2 to 4 weeks, I should feel better. And it's been about 2 to 4 weeks. So I am hopeful that that's what it was. I think I'm still going to go in tomorrow to the doctor just to kind of get another look, maybe a second test, and at least make a connection with this doctor. But either way, I'm committed to kind of the next 2 months. I wanted to treat it like just building health back. So, you know, maybe not exercise, or maybe not training, more so just exercising, you know, still running 5 to 6 times a week, but not necessarily working towards one specific goal. So I'll still have speed work every week, you know, just to kind of keep the turnover. But for the most part, I'm just going to be running miles, just enjoying the miles, and lifting a couple of times a week to maintain some strength. The other thing that I have decided that I am going to do is, you know, I just weighed myself, and I'm about 15 pounds heavier than I was a year ago. Not a year ago, than I was maybe a year and a half ago. And weight isn't everything, and it's not for speed, but more so for health. I have a tendency to, in times of really, really high stress, you know, just overindulge in food and just not be careful about what I'm eating. And, you know, I lean towards that too because I train a lot, and so you've got to fuel the body. I want to keep myself injury free, so I'd rather overeat than undereat, but it has gotten away from me a little bit. So right now I'm at about 185 pounds. I would love to be back down at my 170 weight, which is kind of my ideal weight for me, in my opinion. Again, not to get faster, but more so for health reasons. And so, yeah, that's going to be kind of the goal over the next probably 2 months is to get down those 15 pounds, as well as just maintain some good cadence, some good turnover, some good fitness, right? Like not literal cadence, more like a workout cadence, if that makes sense. So 2 months of, eating healthier, taking care of the body, and enjoying training. And then we'll get back into structured training, probably doing another speed block, before then moving to a 5K focus, or for the marathon focus for the Tokyo Marathon. So yeah, that's kind of the thoughts. That's the plan. It's Wednesday. It feels like Monday because I was out of town, but yeah, gonna get moving, get outside, get the body flowing.
So today's run is pretty rough, but I expected this because I flew yesterday. For whatever reason, maybe it's body storing extra inflammation from the air pressure, whatever, right? For whatever reason, the day after a flight is always a garbage run for me. Lots of walking breaks today, that's okay. About 5.3 miles in, we're probably around a 10:20 pace, something like that, 10:30 pace on average. But yeah, I don't feel terrible. It's the airplane post travel day, so feeling clunky, not jet lagged, but out of whack a little bit. We're back at elevation versus, not just Alpharetta wasn't sea level, but definitely wasn't Utah, and but everything's flat. So pace wise, we're pretty much even with what we were in Alpharetta. Honestly, the elevation and the humidity just interchanged, but I think I'm feeling all right for the most part. Yeah, just keep going. All right, we are headed to work, and figured I'd share a little bit about diet. Some people have asked about that. So I don't normally track, and that's a little bit of how I've gotten myself, a little bit out of my normal shape. It's just been a stressful year. Lots of stuff going on in life. Not all bad at all. In fact, not a whole lot of bad. It's been a good year for the most part. But there's just things, that I don't share on here that stress me out, and I have anxiety and OCD. So, there's things that get to me. But anyway, just for the sake of self-preservation, pretty much, I just didn't focus on food for, the better part of the last year, a little bit more than that. And so I just want to lock it back in. Now I am going to be in a deficit, but I'm still running. I'm still exercising a lot. And so it's just got to be really careful with that. So I'm focusing on a couple of things like high nutrient foods. I did a fruit smoothie with some greens and stuff, just now. I'll make sure to get like some calories in before every run, even if it's just a little bit. I'll adjust things like, on long runs or long run days or big workout days, just making sure that I'm fueling during and not necessarily counting those towards my calorie total for the day, right? But for the most part, what I like to look at is about 26 to 2,700 calories a day. Shoot, the road is closed. 2,700 calories a day, and then about 170 to 80 grams of protein. I keep my fats probably around 80 to 90 grams, and then the rest of it's in carbs, because just carbs to fuel the body. And I try and get some simple carbs before every workout. So if I've got like a lift in the afternoon, trying to make sure I get a good amount of simple carbs like right before, eating meals in between, right, to make sure that I have fuel for those workouts, are key to making sure I feel good when I'm going into those workouts, when I'm going into those events. So
I honestly thought that it would be easier coming back to Utah after being on the East Coast or Eastern time, but that has not been the case. I don't know if I'm just wiped out from the travel and then jumping right back into work, but man, I did not sleep great last night. Despite that, I'm going to get out this morning to do some 400s. I'm going to wrap up miles in the Endorphin Speed 5 for testing. So far, early thoughts on the shoe. I'm a little disappointed. I'm not the most impressed by the shoe. And it's not, like, to be clear, it's not that it's a bad shoe. It's just that when compared to even previous iterations, I feel like it just doesn't quite know what it's doing. So, we'll see how it does in intervals, if it's a little bit better. But essentially, Saucony basically, like, they said that they wanted to go back to something a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more poppy. I just don't feel like they did that with this shoe. Last year, I thought the Endorphin Speed 4 was just a phenomenal long run shoe. Yeah, it was probably going to lack in the, short, fast interval department, but for like tempo workouts, threshold workouts, long run workouts, it was phenomenal. It was one of my favorite shoes of the year. This shoe, like the 5's just sitting kind of in no man's land, where it just, they made it a little bit more aggressive in geometry, but the foam at this point, to be honest, is kind of dated. Like, Power Run PB just doesn't have the same pop or snap as it used to compared to the rest of the market. So I haven't tested a lot of lightweight plated trainers this year. Most of those end up releasing more in the fall for fall marathon season. So we'll see, at that point. The other thing is most brands are almost going more towards, like, they're going away from the lightweight plated trainers and moving more so just to straight up super trainers. So it'll just be interesting to see how this feels in comparison at the end of the year. Is this category just dying because people are just using their super shoes for, their speed workouts? And if that's the case, that's fine. But man, I wish they had done something a little bit different. I will say the upper is a big improvement over the 4. The 4's upper was breathable, yet a little bit baggy. Just didn't quite fit streamlined. This is a big update for the upper. But that's about it, in my opinion. So anyway, full review will probably launch next week, or I guess if you're watching this, probably this week.
Got more blood drawn. Talking to the doctor, I'm really glad I came today. I was on the fence. I thought about canceling just because I have been feeling a little bit better. But Dr. Jackson, phenomenal. Like, walked me through results as well, kind of talked about what other potential things they could be. We talked through viral infections. He was saying it very well could be, or could have been, Epstein-Barr, basically mono, right? Which, he was saying, he was like, we can test for it, but honestly, it just means that we draw more blood, and like the solution, like if it's anything viral, he's like, it sounds like a viral infection, like what you had. He's like, but if it's anything viral, honestly, we would just kind of let it run its course at this point, because it's been to this point. But he did bring up Red S, right? Red S, relative energy deficiency in sport, right? Which is more talked about with women, because with women, oftentimes they will actually lose their period if they have Red S, right? And that has to do with fueling. So he was like, I don't think this is what it is, because like you're fueling, like you're a more muscular guy as a runner, even for the amount of running that you do. So he's like, I don't think that this is it. And I would agree, given the fact that, I've put on weight, over the last few months and last year, right? But I walked through my training history too, and he doesn't think it's overtraining syndrome. He's also going to do some inflammatory tests that may tell us if there is any potential red flags or things that we need to do additional screening for, any organ function or anything along those lines. So, he kind of thinks that these tests, and then T3 hormone is the other one that I guess they didn't grab T3 hormone, they grabbed the other ones. I don't really know how that works, but so I did some blood tests, so we'll see. he kind of feels like, and I kind of feel like after talking to him, that we were probably dealing with something like a virus, which would mean that like I'm probably going to be fine going forward and won't need to do anything additional. But better safe than sorry, right? Better safe at trying to get ahead of anything that could end up popping up again. So even though I felt good for the last week or so, it's only been a week or so. And so yeah, we'll go from there. But all in all, I don't like getting my blood drawn. Didn't pass out today though, so that's always a win.
Saturday morning, and I'm getting my butt kicked a little bit. Yesterday I went to the doctor, as I talked about, and got my blood drawn, and just because of the time of day, I didn't run in the morning because I wanted to make sure that in case they needed to draw any blood that I need to be fasting for, they could do the tests and all of that. Now, come to find out, I didn't need to be fasting for the tests that they ran. It is what it is. But then I got home, got right into work, and basically worked until about 5:30, and then it was time for family. So I did not run yesterday, and to be honest, it was a pretty stressful work day. So I really wish I had run, because running helps me kind of manage that. But anyway, I thought about running last night, and I just, I was like, well, if I had run last night, I probably would have had a hard time waking up today, because I had a hard time waking up anyway. And, that just probably wouldn't have ended up great. So decided to sleep, get a good amount of sleep and wake up and do a long run this morning. So my goal, again, I just kind of go out and get what the body gives. But the goal is about 10 to 12 miles, see how I feel. I'm gonna fuel, I got a banana, got June-Aug Sport, which has carbs and electrolytes and caffeine. And then I'm gonna obviously carry gels on me as well today. But we're just gonna basically do it easy, maybe hit a little bit faster paces towards the end if I'm feeling good. So it looks like it's gonna rain. The weather says it's just cloudy though, so I kind of hope it is just cloudy, but it stays cool, so that'll be nice. So.
Three miles in, first gel. Mile 6, gel 2. All right, so I'm about 7.5 miles in. Gonna pause at 8. I still have more. I want to get 10 to 11, but my Achilles starting to scratch. And I look down and I'll show you guys the freaking socks. These are CEP socks, CEP shoes, right? I'm testing these shoes, right, through WeViews, where I do my multi-test or written reviews, right? They got me these to test. Want me to do a written review, video review. I'm happy to do it, but I'm always unbiased in my reviews, right? So here's the thing. The shoes are tearing through the socks that they are designed to work with. That's wild. On top of that, the fit of this shoe is just awkward. All right, well, I mean, I want to save most of my review, obviously, for the actual video. But man, I gotta go. I'm gonna go put a Band-Aid on just so that I don't destroy my Achilles and ruin my running for the next few days, because I'm bleeding through my socks, right? So. All right, just under 10 miles done. I can't run. My Achilles are just gonna get slashed. There's blisters on them already. It's a bummer. It's disappointing. So, I've been on record a couple of times saying there's no such thing as bad shoes, and I still believe that. Just because these probably don't work for me does not mean they won't work for you. But a couple of first thoughts, and they're not necessarily good ones. So one, I did not have issues with the Mach X2, which most people got slashed by. I did not have issues with the Adios Pro 4, which some people had issues with. I didn't have issues with the On Cloud Boom Strike, which some people had issues with, right? Just bleeding through the Achilles areas. This Achilles area is a razor blade, and it's tearing up both of my Achilles. I'm not sure why this versus the others are like that. Maybe it's because the shoe does curve in, right? You don't have an Achilles flare. I think it might be this piece right here, which so many brands are doing this nowadays. I don't get it. It's not a tab. It's more so like the upper comes a little bit higher than the actual cushion itself. Like they want it to have like more of a modern look. I don't know why, but like so many shoes nowadays are doing this kind of thing, and it's causing issues, right? Again, not every shoe causes me issues. I seem to have good Achilles, probably because I tore my Achilles up a couple of times playing basketball when I was a kid, to the point where they got infected, and now they are like super scarred up, so it's harder to cut through. But this heel literally made the shoe unrunnable for me towards the end of the run. Like, I cut my run short with like 0.2 miles left, right? Not because I was tired, not because I couldn't do it, but because the shoe itself was cutting in. You know, the other things that I kind of noticed, the arch is so pronounced kind of in that heel area because of this, you know, I forget what they call it, but it's this, oh, the Bowtech itself, right? So this Bowtech. So instead of a plate, it's almost kind of like a circle in some ways, and it's supposed to support the natural movement of your arch, right? Which, you know, carbon fiber plates kind of fight your feet. They do the running for you. This is supposed to assist your running. I felt like it was fighting back. So one, the arch was super pronounced underfoot. Like, it feels like you're standing on a curve, like on an arch, and I don't need or want arch support to that degree. So it didn't feel super comfortable just on foot at first. And it almost felt like it was pushing me backwards as opposed to helping me roll forwards. Now, as the run progressed, I think my foot kind of adjusted to it, and it kind of went away. But then I started to feel kind of some, like a really firm, almost protruding area in the forefoot. And when you look at the bottom of the shoe, I mean, it kind of like is around right here, where I don't know if like my foot was midfoot striking and it was like hitting the foam area and kind of pushing into my foot, but it felt like there was a lot of ground feel, and that should not feel like ground feel, you know? Now, the shoe's bouncy. It bounces kind of more up than it does forward. The upper, though, it kind of cuts in the toe, pinky toe area, right? And so I wouldn't be surprised, or won't be surprised, if I do have a blister there too. Lengthwise, they fit right, but you know, they have kind of a couple of complicated panels that I actually feel like, you know, are supposed to make it easier to get locked down. And I just felt like I was shifting a little bit in the shoe too. But and they said it's supposed to kind of fit like a glove. I couldn't half size down in this though because of that toe box issue. And so again, maybe it's just that it's my foot that doesn't work for it. Maybe it's just me. I'm willing to accept that because, you know, there's probably someone out there who this works for. But candidly, I'm going to struggle to get 30 miles in this shoe because it fights my shoe, or it fights my foot that much. I haven't had a shoe fight me that much in a while. The other one that fought me actually was the Puma Rule Breaker. Like, that thing was just kind of crazy. Similar, like, kind of unique technology, right? They're trying things for fun. I didn't even review that shoe because, you know, I bought it with my own money. I got like 12 miles in it and was just like, I can't really do more miles in it. Like, at that point, it was just like, it's gonna jack up my feet. So we'll give this shoe another try. Hopefully it improves. On the second run, I'll wear some blister resist socks, but I mean, I was hopeful. CEP is a good brand, right? But at least for me, the shoe so far has not been it. So we'll see. We'll see. Now, as far as the week goes, I don't know if this, I might run tomorrow. I want to run tomorrow since I didn't run on Friday and didn't run on Tuesday. So I'll probably run tomorrow. We'll see. Get closer to 40-ish miles, at least like 35 miles, right? Yeah, I mean, the week has just kind of been a wash between travel, being away with family, you know, and then like work, coming back and immediately jumping into like a full day in the office where we're in meetings back to back, to just being slammed the last 2 days and having doctor's appointments and still wanting to make sure that we got stuff with the family, right? So, you know, at the end of the day, like, it wasn't a bad week, it just was a weird week. So maybe I just treat it as a deload and go into next week fresh. In fact, as much as I don't want to, I think that's what I'm gonna say I'm gonna do. But if that's the case, I got under 30 miles, like 28 miles, only like 4 hours, 40 minutes of running, like the lowest week I've had in a long time. But that's okay, right? Because we're trying to figure out health stuff. We're really chasing health anyway. You know, in a calorie deficit right now, actually. And so I'm making sure to fuel during these runs, you know, even if they're easy to moderate effort. And yeah, like overall feeling pretty good. Working to raise money still for Tokyo. You know, if you have the means, the ability, as of right now, I'm going to come up way short of my goal. I knew that was a possibility. I knew I might be on the hook for a large sum of money, so I'm willing to pay it if it comes down to that 100%, right? Don't want to make this feel like I'm like begging you guys to contribute, right? Because this is, you know, like it's my story. It's me chasing, you know, this race. It's returning home for me. It's important for me, for my family. But I also get to donate to a phenomenal charity that benefits my family as well, right? So, you know, and when benefits my family, benefits the area that my grandparents live in, right? If you haven't watched my other videos, aren't sure the context, the charity I'm working with is the Sports Legacy Foundation. They donate money to youth sports programs, to the families that were affected by the Great East earthquake, as well as that tsunami that followed in Japan in 2011. The children during that time are still being affected. The areas are still affected. And so the money goes towards these sports programs for the youth of those families, specifically in Fukushima, Japan, which is where my grandparents live, right? So I went back in 2011. I actually got to do cleanup, you know, help out in the area. That was the last time I was in Japan. And so we're going to make it work. We're going to figure it out. But if you have the means, if you have the ability, any dollar amount helps. Even $5, right, goes a long way. And I think I'm working on a couple of things, maybe with some brands, to be able to do some giveaways or different things, or fundraising in partnership with the brand. So stay tuned. But I appreciate you guys. And yeah, we'll shut it down. Have a good week next week.